Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Hey, what's up? I'm Jason Howell, and I am here with the Dell Venue 8 7000. This is Dell's new tablet. They unveiled it at CES this year, and it had a lot of buzz around it because of its thin profile. You'll see it's very, very thin. I'll talk about that here in a second. It's $399. You can pick it up at Dell.com. So let's take a look at the specs. It's an 8.4-inch OLED 2560 by 1600 resolution tablet. That's 361 pixels per inch. It's running an Intel Atom Z3580 2.3 gigahertz quad-core CPU. It's a 64-bit chip inside there, so it'll be 64-bit capable when Lollipop comes around, which Dell actually says is going to be soon. It's running KitKat right now, which is kind of unfortunate that they didn't launch with Lollipop, but that's just how it goes. It has 2 gigs of RAM inside, 16 gigs of internal storage. It does have a micro SD card slot that's expandable to 512 gigs on the side, so you can pack a lot of storage in there if you want to. Now, it has an 8-megapixel rear-facing camera up at the top there, but you also notice 2 other cameras on the side. These are both 720p cameras that are included for depth sensing. And then down at the bottom of the tablet, you can see that there is a single 2-megapixel front-facing camera shooting forward. It does have stereo speakers as well on one side of the tablet and a 5900 milliamp hour battery. All right, so let's take a look at the design first and foremost. Its definite key feature here is that it's thin. It's the world's thinnest tablet, as Dell says, and pretty light as well. Thinness, it's right around 6 millimeters, and that's thinner than a pencil. Still feels pretty solid. Definitely a solid build. It's an anodized aluminum body. There's front-facing stereo speakers, like I said, and they're loud enough. The only problem with the stereo speakers is that they're only stereo when you're in portrait mode. You go into landscape for a movie or a gaming, and suddenly the stereo speakers are kind of pointless. It's just on one side of the screen. It's kind of a bummer. The buttons on the side are pretty stable, have nice kind of a nice feel to them, and they feel super sturdy, but maybe just a little bit too flush, I'd say. But overall, they're all right. Thin bezels all around, as you can see here, but obviously the bottom bezel is the large one, and that's just because it's packing everything else. It's got the cameras built into it, the speakers, everything you need inside that single portion of the tablet. And I would say the design in general has pretty sharp edges. So if you're holding on to it for a long enough period of time, it starts to kind of wear on your hands. Overall, design looks nice. I don't know if it's the most functional design in the world. I did register some phantom touches on the sides because of the thin bezels at times, so consider that. As for the display, I definitely say it's the key feature of this device. There isn't a whole lot to say about it other than that it's excellent, it's vibrant, saturation is a little strong, but still there's enough detail in there and things look good. So I'd say it's definitely a strong point of the tablet. Performance-wise, did a web browsing, which I actually put it through the Verge test, switched to desktop mode to see how well it did. I'd say it performed pretty well, more or less, on the Verge site, as well as just general web browsing. Gaming, played some games. My favorite to test right now is Riptide G2, and it's, I thought it was pretty sturdy, pretty stable on gaming, though the device did heat up a little bit over prolonged use. Battery efficient, definitely battery efficient through daily use. I was able to get through a couple of days of using this as my regular tablet, so good there. I'd say overall, few minor issues with performance here and there, but I was pretty happy with it. All right, now let's move on to the cameras, which I would definitely say is kind of one of Dell's key features here. It has the Intel RealSense cameras built in. That's the 2 cameras on the side and then the camera up at the top. This camera up at the top is the main camera, and that's what you see through the camera app and that you take pictures through. These other cameras are there, and you can preview them through the app while you're taking pictures, but they're pretty much just providing depth information into the photo, allowing you to kind of go back and do some, rack blurs and that sort of stuff. Unfortunately, the position of the camera is down at the bottom, so if you want to take pictures, you actually do have to rotate it upside down, and they advise you of doing that, which isn't a deal breaker. As you can see, the desktop actually repositions itself when it's upside down. It's just kind of awkward to do. And then, of course, you have the power buttons and volume buttons down here that you're managing around, and you press the wrong thing, and suddenly, the volume goes down or the screen goes off. So you just gotta keep that in mind when you're taking pictures. Definitely, the depth sensing technology requires a lot of really good light, and it also has a requirement of objects being 3 to 16 feet away, and it's kind of a sweet spot. It takes a little practice to get in there, and even when I got it, I wouldn't say that it necessarily looked amazing. I had a couple of pictures that looked okay with it. And then just general gripe with cameras on tablets is that low light performance, just the image quality in general is never 100%, a little grainy and just not the best. As for the software, this is running KitKat, and it's a pretty unchanged version of KitKat. You can see just kind of bouncing through that everything looks pretty stock, pretty standard to the way Google designed KitKat. A few touches here and there, but not a whole lot. There are a few Dell apps built in, some of which I've shown off already. The camera app that supports the RealSense depth cameras. There's the gallery that you can actually sync Google+, Facebook, and Dropbox inside that app, and also use some of its advanced photo editing features for that Instagram effect. There's Dell Live Wallpaper, which you can kind of see on the background right now. I have a little bit of a wallpaper that when I move, you get a little parallax view. It's subtle and it's neat. And the Dell Live Wallpaper app allows you to select a few of those. And then My Dell is a support app, which kind of gives you some diagnostic access there. And then finally, the Dell Cast. And this is an app that we're going to go into just really quick here. It's an $80 dongle, HDMI dongle that Dell sells as an additional accessory. And this tablet can be used as basically a desktop computer. You plug that HDMI dongle into the back of a TV, you sync it up with a wireless keyboard and mouse, and plug it all in and run the Dell Cast app on here, and voila, your tablet now becomes a desktop environment on any external TV that has HDMI input. And I would say, in my experience, it was pretty laggy, pretty fiddly. It's all wirelessly done, so random issues arise and you get little breakups and pixelation and all that kind of stuff. And ultimately, I'm just not convinced in Android in the desktop environment. I feel like it just makes things, their aim is to make things more productive. I feel like it just kind of slows me down. I'm sure over time maybe I'd get used to it a little bit more, but I'm not sure I'd give it that time, because in my time playing with it, it just wasn't that successful in convincing me that it needed to happen. All right, so the pros of the Dell Venue 8 7000. It's incredibly thin and incredibly light, so that's nice. The display definitely pops. It's got a nice visual representation on the display. Desktop mode with Dell Cast could be a win for some. For me, I wouldn't say that it was, but some people want desktop on Android, so there you go. And the RealSense cameras on the back are definitely different. But in the cons, I'd say RealSense still feels like a gimmick. It doesn't feel like a reason to purchase a device, just a nice added feature that maybe you're going to use a little bit more than you think. Picture quality, of course, it's a tablet. I don't expect a whole lot in image quality, but it definitely didn't, stand up. And that awkward chin down at the bottom with the awkward, crazy placement of the cameras just kind of gets in the way more often than I would hope. Now, as for my verdict, I was kind of hedging between don't buy and try, only because it's not the tablet for me, but I do know that a lot of people are looking for Android in a desktop environment. Maybe that's convenient to them. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a try. It's $400, and that's the same cost as the Nexus 9, which personally I would buy over the two. But if you want Android in a desktop environment, if you want to play around with some of the advanced photo features that RealSense cameras kind of bring to the table in here, then, definitely take a look. This is the Dell Venue 8 7000 for $399. Thank you so much for watching my review. My name is Jason Howell. You can catch my other reviews on All About Android at twit.tv/AAA. Thanks a lot.